This is a real story that happened in Boston in the late 2000s. A story about trust, chance encounters, and a person no one would ever suspect. He was a student, a future doctor, a good son, and a fiancé. People described him as quiet and polite. But at night, he lived a completely different life. Today, I will tell this case from beginning to end. This is Nexia, and this is the story of a killer from social media. In April 2009, a hotel employee in Boston noticed something small that at first did not seem important. One of the guests had not checked out on time, the phone was silent, and no one answered the knocks on the door. This happens all the time. People fall asleep, lose track of time, or forget something, but this time there was a feeling of trevoga that could not be ignored. When the door was opened with a service key, it became clear that something serious had happened inside. Things were scattered, pillows overturned, a bag on the floor. On the bed lay a young woman, motionless. The room was filled with an unnatural silence, the kind of silence that changes the lives of those who witness it forever. Her name was Julissa Brisman, 26 years old. Friends remembered her as bright and full of life. She loved photographing sunsets, collected tickets from concerts and trips. Her laughter was so genuine that people would turn around in a cafe. Life in Boston was expensive, and Julissa worked as a massage therapist to pay rent and loans. Sometimes, to cover her bills faster, she posted ads on Craigslist for private meetings. That evening, she wrote to a friend, "One more meeting and I'm going home. I'll call you later." That message became her last police. Immediately began reviewing surveillance footage. A man appeared on the video, a dark baseball cap, a light jacket, a medical mask. He walked slowly, calmly, did not look around, and did not try to hide his face. He pressed the elevator button and waited for the doors to close. 20 minutes later, he left the hotel just as calmly as if he had only come to pick something up. It was this normality that seemed most disturbing to investigators. Cold control combined with a complete absence of fear. In April 2009, Boston police were investigating 2 separate attacks on women who offered services online and arranged meetings in hotels. On April 10th, 29-year-old Tricia Leffler was tied up and robbed during such a meeting at the Westin Hotel. 4 days later, Julissa Brisman was found injured in the doorway of her room at the Marriott. It looked like she had tried to fight back against the attacker. She had arranged a meeting with a man named Andy through an online ad, and police believed these cases were connected to earlier incidents. The offender arranged meetings using a temporary mobile phone. One detail linked all 3 cases. The attacks happened during in-person meetings, and some of the women were restrained with plastic ties. The city began to panic. Every Craigslist ad started to feel like a potential danger. Women canceled meetings, hotels increased security, and the news kept reporting new incidents. An invisible stranger became a symbol of fear. For many people in Boston, detectives worked without sleep, collecting surveillance footage, receipts, taxi routes, bank transactions, and mobile signals. Slowly, a map of the suspect's movements began to form. Every step seemed planned in advance, cold and methodical. In one of the recordings, his face was seen more clearly. Young, neat, ordinary, more like a student than a criminal. One detective even joked, "He looks more like a hospital intern than someone who is holding the city in fear." The breakthrough came through a stolen phone from one of the victims. The signal led to a specific area, then to a specific building. The name in the database, Philip Markoff, 22 years old, a medical student, top of his class, no criminal record. According to police, Markoff responded to an ad for massage services on Craigslist on April 14, 2009. He met with 26-year-old Julissa Brisman at the Marriott Hotel. Later that evening, she was found unconscious with multiple injuries. She was taken to Boston Medical Center, where she died from her injuries. Police believe the confrontation began during an attempted robbery and escalated when Brisman managed to break free from the plastic ties used to restrain her. Craigslist in the United States is a normal online classified site. People sell old furniture, look for housing, offer side jobs, or arrange meetings. For most, it is just a convenient way to buy or earn money. But for Markoff, it became a tool for a completely different life. A life no one around him suspected. Philip grew up in a quiet town in New York State. Neighbors remembered him as calm, polite, a good student who rarely caused problems. In school, he was part of honor societies, took part in activities, and seemed like someone who clearly knew what he wanted from the future. After graduation, he entered the university at Albany on a pre-med track. Most of his time he spent studying or in the hospital, volunteering in the emergency department. Friends said he easily connected with patients and seemed genuinely interested in helping people. But there was another side. At night, he could spend hours playing poker, first with friends, then in casinos. More seriously, with large stakes, the game slowly became a habit he could not walk away from. Losses hit him hard, like a challenge he had to win back at any cost. It was at the university hospital that he met Megan McAllister. They volunteered together, supported each other during difficult shifts, and quickly became a couple, calm, focused, with the same plans: medicine, career, a stable life. Philip graduated earlier than many classmates, earned a degree in biology, and was accepted into Boston University Medical School. Megan moved with him, putting her own plans on hold to support him. In 2008, they got engaged and began planning their wedding. From the outside, everything looked almost perfect. A promising young medical student, a loving fiancé, a stable future ahead. But behind that clean picture, problems were building. Philip was disappearing into casinos more often. The bets were growing, the debts were rising. And at that point, Craigslist returned to his life, a simple classified site that soon became part of a story that shocked all of Boston. It was small digital traces that helped investigators find the person who had remained invisible for so long. First, they checked mobile activity near the crime scenes, trying to identify a phone that appeared in the same places at the same time. But the suspect used disposable devices, and that path quickly led nowhere. Then attention shifted to the email accounts used to arrange meetings. Even temporary accounts leave a technical trace. After several official requests, investigators obtained an IP address and then a name and home address. For the first time, there was a concrete suspect, Philip Markoff. Additional data from social media strengthened the suspicion, showing where he had been at key moments. The decisive step was not technology, but traditional detective work. Markoff was placed under surveillance, and when he went out to a store, investigators quietly lifted his fingerprints from objects he touched. In the lab, they were compared to a print found earlier. The match was complete. There was no doubt left. 6 days after the events, Markoff and his fiancée were stopped on a highway on their way to a casino in Connecticut. They were separated into different rooms and questioned. Markoff's interrogation followed a classic hard approach: long hours of pressure, repeated questions, hints about evidence. He kept asking for a lawyer, avoided answers, and said he remembered nothing. The conversation went in circles and gave investigators little new information. Megan's interrogation was completely different. Instead of emotion, cold specifics, detectives focused on technical details. What laptops were in the apartment, what phones they used, how the internet was set up, what websites they visited. The investigation relied more and more on digital traces, IP addresses, accounts, connection history, as if a person's life could be reconstructed from login records. When Megan was shown a blurry frame from surveillance cameras, she simply shook her head. "That's not his shoes. I know all his shoes," she said quietly. At that moment, she still believed him. Only later did the facts force her to accept a reality she could not believe for a long time. After obtaining a warrant, investigators searched Markoff's apartment. Inside, everything looked normal: a student apartment, textbooks, everyday items. But among those ordinary things were details that slowly formed a disturbing picture. Inside a hollowed-out anatomy book, they found a gun and ammunition. They also found plastic ties and a laptop with saved Craigslist conversations. Digital and physical evidence reinforced each other. On April 21st, Markoff was formally charged. He denied his guilt and gave almost no explanation. Why this happened remains unclear. Some believed gambling debts pushed him. Others spoke about a need for risk and a double life that got out of control. But for investigators, motive was no longer the key. The facts spoke for themselves. The case never reached trial, while hearings were ongoing. Markoff remained in custody. Nearly a year and a half later, he was found in his cell, without signs of life. Investigators concluded it was intentional. The case that began with simple online ads ended quietly and suddenly, leaving more questions than answers. Markoff's story showed how the internet can both hide and expose a criminal. Digital traces, emails, IP addresses, surveillance footage allowed investigators to build the full picture when testimony was no longer enough. Today, most evidence in investigations comes from phones, computers, and cloud services. Sometimes one message or one IP address is enough to find someone who believed they were invisible. This story shows how thin the line can be between an ordinary life and dark secrets. What do you think about this case? Write your thoughts in the comments. This was Nexaya, and I will see you in the next story.